Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our session this afternoon, our session on how to make technology incubators and how to make communities more resilient using them. So we're delighted to have you joining us here today. Thank you very much for being part of this session. Thank you too for being part of the day. I'm just going to share some slides with you, which we'll run through at the start of the session before breaking in to a discussion towards the end of it with a colleague of mine who will also be joining us. So please bear with us whilst we just start our slides. There we go. So hopefully you should be able to see those. So my name is John Connolly. I'm Managing Director of C40I, which is the Centre for Digital Innovation here in Hull. Somebody mentioned that if you're trying to see these slides, at the moment what you might see on screen is a video of me, our slides, and a colleague of mine who will speak shortly. So if you double click on the picture of the slides, it should bring the slides up full window, and you don't have to spend the next 5 minutes or so looking at me. First thing, just to say a huge thank you very much to all my colleagues in the UK Tech Cluster Group. The UK Tech Cluster Group is a fantastic organisation. It's been a tremendous support and help to us here in Hull for some of the things that we're doing. It's great to hear case studies of things that are going on throughout the country. Great to hear from colleagues who are tackling similar and different problems. And it's been a great day today to listen to some of the sessions and tap into their expertise. So thank you to all of them. But most importantly, thank you very much to you. Thank you to everybody that's joined the session today, but also the event throughout the day. It's great to kind of share examples of best practice and help each other through some tricky times. We're going to talk you through a few things today. We're going to talk you through a little bit of a presentation about how we built a tech community here in Hull. Then we're going to hear from our chairman, a guy called David Keel, who also built a big tech company in Hull, and the reasons why he's talking about community will be really apparent as we get into that. And then we'll rattle through this and hopefully break over for some questions towards the end of it. So to give you a bit of background to us and a little bit of why community is so important to us and the resilience of that, C40I does two things. We help technology companies grow and we help traditional businesses innovate. We've been going since about the middle of 2013. We originally opened a trial tech campus in Hull in a one room in an old bonded warehouse, and we opened it thinking it would be gym membership for techies. So all the reasons why gyms would work. A bunch of people would show up, they'd use the facilities, and fun and interesting things would just happen. And quite quickly we realized there was much more to it than that. The community was absolutely at the heart of everything that we did. Very quickly we were asked three questions. The first of those was, I'm an independent developer, designer, trying to build my tech company. Do you think you could help us grow our startup? Can you help us do that? And to be fair, that was the kind of question that we expected to be asked. The next question was a little bit more, I'm an independent developer, designer, techie, I'm an expert in one particular area, but I'm lying in bed awake at night, trying to think of the next Instagram or trying to think of the next Facebook. If only I could think of that idea, wouldn't that be great? So I've got all those skills, and problems but I've got no problems to solve. So that's one group of people. The next group of people was traditional industry and traditional businesses locally saying, you've got this building full of problem solvers. Do you think they could solve problems for us? And at that point we thought, well, there's actually something quite interesting that could be happening here. Wouldn't it? You can have tech communities anywhere. Every sort of person going is doing innovation consulting. There are incubators, accelerators all over the place. But what would it look like if we built and curated a community, and that community was relevant to the traditional businesses locally, if it was focused on trying to help those businesses locally innovate and grow, and it would help them innovate, and in return those businesses would be giving work to that community to help grow some interesting startups and scale-ups. So that was the model that we teased out in the first few weeks of C40I when we were in our beta, in our trial place, and that gave us confidence for two things. Firstly, it gave the property company who we're partnered with confidence to build a big new building, and it gave us confidence that were we to set up a business running this sort of thing, it would be sustainable and we could make a big and meaningful economic impact in our community locally. So towards the back end of 2015, we moved into the first phase of a purpose-built tech campus, and we've now got a community of about over 350 people who are on site, or who were on site until a couple of months ago, on a day-by-day basis, and a wider network of about 1,000 people. That 1,000 people, are not people that kind of came to an event once and we never saw again. They're actively engaged, coming to things week in, week out at C40I. Our campus in Hull is going to expand a little bit this year, so into the late September with the next phase of our and the next phase of a £15 million project. And we're super excited that in partnership with our friends at Hambleton Council up in Northallerton, we're going to be opening another C40I focused on agri-tech and food processing. So that'll be a C40I just focused on that particular industry sector and helping traditional businesses around Northallerton innovate and grow. So we've got some fantastic businesses growing and creating jobs, and in a session later, you'll hear all about them. We've got some really interesting startups securing funding, and we've got some great examples of technology businesses that have been relocating to the region. And that's all part of this model that is, how do you bring a community that's relevant to traditional businesses to help the traditional businesses innovate and help the tech community develop and grow jobs. And it's that thing at the heart of that community that's at the heart of what we do, and that we're trying to develop and grow, and is the key to how you remain resilient through crazy times we are having at the moment. That community is key. And when we were starting C40I, some of the challenges we looked at were, what do we want this community to look like? If we could roll the clock forward and we could see a perfect community, well, we'd want one that reflected the local economy. We wouldn't want just a bunch of geeks in a silo solving problems. We'd want them to be relevant to businesses locally. We want the two to be working together. We'd want a community that reflected the local people, that reflected the values locally, the traditions locally, but it was deeply seated in the heart of that community, that it lived, worked, and played within that community. We want a community that cared for people, that, when in life and its ups and downs outside of COVID, that a community that looked out for each other, that tried to help each other be better. We want a community that creates opportunities, in a world that's obsessed with unicorn hunting and trying to track down investment rounds. Actually, just opportunities for traditional businesses can be the little spark that helps create a new business and helps a business grow. And ultimately, a community that creates jobs, because that's kind of one way of making a big economic impact, is through creating jobs. And so when we were doing that, we were looking around, and this was before C40I even started, and I was asked to be part of the team of people that founded C40I. And the other person that was asked to be part of the founding team of C40I was a guy called David Keel. And the reason David Keel was asked, but not only was he a very successful local businessman, but he built a company that reflected these sorts of things, that reflected the local economy, the local people, that cared for people, that created opportunities and jobs. And the values of that business and the values that Dave instilled in that are something that we try throughout C40I to try and instill within the community that we're growing here in Hull. So in order to try and understand how we make that community resilient and robust to be able to deal with the sort of nasty things that are happening at the moment, we've invited David to come and talk to us. So I'll quit out in a slightly clunky way. I'll quit out my slides, and I will introduce you to David Keel, who will talk you through a little bit. If David's still there, he will talk you through some things. He might quite be there. If you hold with us for 2 seconds, some technical challenges. So please stick with us. I think we've had a few technical niggles throughout the session. I think Dave's just joining us now. So. Dave's having a few technical challenges at the moment. So I wonder if anybody's got any questions just whilst we're waiting for Dave to join at the moment. If you want to put any questions in the chat window, we can deal with those. Any questions so far? So Mel, very kindly. So Mel, thank you very much. What kind of events do you run? So I think, well, particularly the events that we run at the moment are, so when COVID hit, we thought, we need to do two things. One of them is we just need to get people talking to each other. So people that are kind of feeling isolated and distant, so let's just do as much as possible to get people talking. And so we run regular events at the moment throughout COVID of just getting people together. So that's community catch-ups, it's community quizzes, simple things like that, just to get people talking. So that's the first bit, to try and get people kind of talking together. The second bit that we do is how do you get people kind of opportunities and work? And so we run focus sessions. We've got about 30 company members who are actively part of C4DI. So we run sessions for them saying, look, just tell us about some of the challenges that you're going through at the moment. Tell us about some of the problems that you're looking to solve. And what we do is we bring those companies into C4DI, introduce them to the community. And what we're trying to do is help those companies as they go about their day-to-day business, as they go throughout their kind of day-to-day lives, be thinking, what are the particular challenges that those traditional businesses are working on? What is it? Which bit of tech have I developed in another area of work that might be relevant to that business? So those are sorts of events. But most of the events that we run are all about how do you bring people together. So do any of your local large corporates have links into your facilities? A question from Chris Parsons. Yes, so we've got links with Nestle, Reckitt Benckiser. Reckitt Benckiser are Nurofen, Durex, Airwick, brands like that, Smith & Nephews, Siemens. So most of the big businesses locally we've got some sort of connection with, and more recently started more nationally. I think one of the challenges is how do we support more SMEs? So large corporate organisations will pay to be part of C4DI. They'll fund innovation programs. Some of those programs, some of that activity is quite runs over a long period of time and it's difficult to fund. So there's a challenge around how do we support SMEs as well. So next question from Richie Somerville. Do you see the scale of the community you consider yourselves to be based in as a factor in your ability to influence impact positively? So, for example, the scale of the community as a neighbourhood, city or region. I think Dave might...
Hi, John.
Hello, Mark. You joined as well.
I could see that you had technical issues with your gas, so I thought I'd clarity from another tech.
Mark, that is exceptionally kind of you. Thank you very much. That's very good. Really appreciate that. Thank you. So the question we see is: do you see the scale of the community we're in as a factor in ability to influence and impact positively? Yeah, I think so. I think when we sort of started out, there were a few of us in a small co-working space. I think as it's got bigger and as buildings have gone up, people like big buildings. They like things being built, and I think in a strange way, as the buildings have gone up, it's been more of ability to influence things locally. And Dave, our guest, is tremendously sorry about this, but his Mac's crashed and he's just struggling to get back in again. So apologies for that. So yeah, any other questions anybody has as we're going through? So how do you see tech incubators changing to create opportunities for collaboration, given the reduced number of ad hoc water cooler and planned networking events and opportunities? That's a cracking question, and I think it points to a challenge that we've got, particularly we found in running events at C4DI. In the normal events that we run, you'll invite corporates in, we'll meet together with small tech companies. The challenge around that is all the interesting stuff, all the water cooler moments are where the kind of opportunities are made. So I think the immediate thing that we did, so we're running a program at the moment with Boots, so Walgreen Boots Alliance, and that partnership started literally the day of lockdown, and we were looking at thinking, how on earth do we help Walgreen Boots Alliance innovate during lockdown when now we can't see them, all the tools that were at our disposal have now gone. I think the answer is in the old world, or one of the answers in the old world, we'd be meeting with those guys and saying, well, let's run a session and let's get together in 3 or 4 weeks, and then we'll meet together and do something, and a bit later. Actually, the benefit that we've seen for running events online is you can do lots and lots of small things much more frequently. So we've now got the kind of dialogues almost daily with a team at Boots, in a place where in the old world, we'd have been doing it once a month or so. So there's actually, it's the ability to have faster, quicker conversations is much greater. So, And I know you're actively involved in stuff down in Cardiff, Mark. I don't know if you've got any experience of that sort of area as well.
Yeah, I was going to say also to answer that earlier point about community. We've always had this thing that, you know, we run a co-working space here, collaborative tech hub. There's 50 odd companies normally here. It's in lockdown at the moment, and over 200 members. But we have this thing of people and places, so that yes, we've got a nice space here, but it's actually it's the people bit of it, which is the key to it. It's building and then curating that community. And this is where I think that there's a real opportunity for hubs to actually to add real value to help the growth of those companies. So we would run both an incubator program, so for either, you know, pre-revenue or at very early stage growth startups, but we also then run an accelerator for, you know, more established companies, even to those guys looking to scale and to looking to exit. And I think it's a combination of those things, being very responsive to your community, which is really the key to it. And a bit like yourself up there, John, you know, we've had to flex in terms of looking at our business model going forward. And where in the past we would have staged a huge amount of events and meetups for the tech and digital and creative community here, we are now thinking about how are we going to not just do that, because clearly there'll be much fewer opportunities for those sorts of things, but how can we work with those large organizations that we work with on a regular basis, like yourself, with primes, to actually create space for them to work off-site, so to speak. You know, that again, a lot of the companies I talk to that we have long-standing partnerships with, it's clear that their way of working from a big office space with, you know, a core establishment of people, at least half those people are never going to come back into that old way of working. So, but as you and I know from being in a collaborative space, people want those moments, those face-to-face things, you know, actually happening in situ, which, you know, we have to do in a safe way still in COVID. But to be able to create those temporary opportunities, if you like, for those workforces to come together, I think is going to be key. We've done a lot of work working with, let's say, R&D teams or the tech teams from large organizations who want to get off site anyway. You know, that's a away day type of blue sky thinking sort of thing. I think that's going to almost become the norm, you know, that these large organizations will be getting people out the door, and those are the people who are actually not working from home anyway. So I think that flex into that new way of working, as long as we're still working with communities, it can still be done. It's, you know, the place thing is important, but it's not the be all and end all. It's the other things you add, you know, the value added.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mark. Thank you again for joining as well. Really appreciate that. So we've got a sort of few questions coming in. Maybe we sort of take. In fact, Dave's there. Hi, Dave. Very good to see you. I think Dave. Sorry, we've had so many problems. I think what we'll do, maybe rather than going through your slides, which are fantastic, is we'll just keep working through these questions, which might be an easier way of doing it. So
tremendous apologies. My Mac crashed and just has been refusing to let me in. So I'm now just working from my tiny little laptop, which seems to be working okay. So
wonderful. Well, so Dave, I can already mention that I'm not quite sure whether you heard the introduction. You built a very large sort of tech company in Hull. I think founded on some amazing principles of community and sort of social values. Great, you're very modest. So I will say grew it to sort of 700 or 800 people with offices all around the world. And the kind of model for that is the stuff that we try and reflect within C40i. So we've got a question from Lindsay Robinson about how do you bring young talent into the community and help build opportunity and retain local talent, which feels like a great opportunity to bring you in, Dave.
What a wonderful question. Yeah, I found myself when I emerged or came out as a local businessman, I found myself surrounded by businessmen who were constantly telling me that the schools and colleges were not turning out the people that they required. And I couldn't relate to that at all. And what I actually realized was they were all just thinking that there was some sort of magic happening so that everybody knew what they wanted and would churn out the right sort of people. I did something different. I engaged with our local tech college, and you've got to put Hull into context here. We are not the most advantaged of cities in the UK, and so our tech college consequently doesn't contain the most advantaged of pupils, but they were streetwise, they were bright, they had credibility, they knew what made the dial move, And so I formed an alliance with the large local tech college, thousands of students there. They didn't quite run the courses that we thought would be relevant. We are computer graphics, CGI. And so I became a course advisor, got on the board of governors, and basically myself and a number of our team would regularly go to the college and help them to understand the sort of software that we wanted, everything from Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Modo for 3D. We would bring even the manufacturers of those software packages to the college to teach the guys, and then we would offer them jobs as they emerged from the college. At one stage, we were taking probably 70 to 100 students a year from that college. We grew to a company of 750 people, the majority of them from Hull, the majority of them with as broad a Hull accent, at least as I've got. And yet we had offices all around the world, still have offices all around the world. Guangzhou, Mumbai, Chennai, Mexico City. And if you Skyped into any of them, you'd be greeted with, hey, it's Trident, because we were giving these kids who probably didn't have a lot of ambitions when they first started with us, the opportunity to work around the world with our company, and really dealt with the biggest brands. We had probably 12 customers, and we're turning over 75 million. Our customers were Unilever, Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal, Coke, just a few names that you might have heard like that. So yeah, we engaged, long answer to a short question, but it is something I'm so passionate about. We engaged with the local tech college and made sure we helped them to understand the sort of skills that we wanted to employ. And we put a lot of energy into that, and it was repaid by us being able to recruit and develop a very, very large amount of, at least 600-700 of them in the end came from that organization, came from that relationship.
Fantastic.
Just thinking, John.
If you have Mark, you added, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, again, a bit like David, I'm passionate about getting young people into the industry. It's how do we keep refreshing and finding outlets for them. So apart from Tramshare, which is where I'm sat now, we've got another digital skills training company, big learning company, which actually works in the education sector with primary school kids, with secondary school, with tertiary, FE, HE. The idea being to start working with these young people at a young age and to track them through as cohorts into the out of the supply side, if you like, into the demand side of the pipeline. And a bit like David, I've made it a bit of a mission to get onto local boards of employment organizations. So I now sit on the board of the Cardiff University Data Science Academy. We're about to, as an organization, move into a new city and share space with the National Software Academy in Newport. That is precisely so we keep in touch with the education side, so we can keep young people coming through the system. And then one of our key corporate relationships is with the Prince's Trust. So how do we work with an organization for whom helping disadvantaged young people is at the core of their message? So I absolutely agree. You've got to join the dots on this. You've got to get the education system, work with them to produce these opportunities for young people, then give them meaningful choices. And that's going to be even more important, in what looks like a catastrophic situation post-COVID.
Yeah, don't sit there and complain, but get involved. Roll up your sleeves and get involved. That's what's critical. John, have you, because I was too busy restarting my Mac several times, have you discussed the kind of a blast zone that we found as we've opened the C4DI?
No, I haven't. Do you want to do that? You perhaps mention that, and then we can look at some more questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because this is probably one of the most appropriate stories that address the title of this section of the event. In that, when we were first talking about the C4DI, we actually thought, quite frankly, it would be gym membership for techies, that people would give us lots of money, never turn up, and we'd all get very rich. And it didn't take long for us to realize, A, we were going to get rich, and B, loads of people were going to turn up. And that's what happened. We were full in no time at all. And that gave us the confidence to build a very large, exciting, modern-looking building, multi-million-pound office block. I'm pretty sure you saw the photographs that John created in his slideshow earlier. But what was most exciting about that, what was probably most motivational about that, was the impact it had on the whole city. So you need to understand that Hull is a city more or less divided by a river and divided by a road running right between it. And on one side, which is where we built the C40I, it was quite frankly derelict. It was a redundant fruit market area for the docks that had fallen into disuse 20 years earlier. And on the other side was a reasonably thriving city. By us opening the C40I at the derelict side of the city, over the probably 4 or 5 years that we've been working at this, we then managed to change the entire footprint of the whole city. So basically, the footprint of Hull had shrunken and shrunken to, as every city, where the shopping malls are, where the shopping centres are. And nobody much ventured beyond that. When we opened the C40I and people started to want to be part of it, we also found that, for example, a cafe opened up in the downstairs floors of the C40I. They now employ 20 odd people and are number one on TripAdvisor for the best places to eat in Hull. Students who joined us when we started are now running companies of 30 and 40 employees. And in effect, there's been millions of pounds spent right at the moment now by the council building a bridge from one side of that motorway to the other side of the motorway, because it's a very dangerous road running between it, but so many people want to be part of that redevelopment area of the city. And the C40I was a catalyst of that. So when you do it, be careful what you wish for, because it's kind of, there's no pause button, there's no easy switch, there's no plan B. You just go for it and then go with the roll. And for us, it was quite amazing. People started building houses around us, building shops around us, and literally we have changed the footprint of the whole city. So digital has got the power to do that. We're particularly proud of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Dave. We've got some other questions. So Louise asks, what's the magic in engaging corporates? Do they already have innovation teams, or is it feeling like they should be invested in the wider community? I think what's really interesting is the big corporates that are based locally. So I think somebody might be echoing. Is that really bad? Maybe, yeah. So thank you. Whoever did muted then. The big corporates that are based locally have a real strong sense of the local community. I think perhaps maybe because in Hull, some of those big corporates, the Reckitt Benkeses and the Smith and Nephews, actually were originally born in Hull. So there's a sort of strong affiliation with that, which we benefit from. I mean, that's something we created. I think, if I was being honest, the magic in the corporates is just taking a mega long-term view of it. I think there are plenty of programs that will sort of take corporate challenges and match them with startups and trying to get stuff to happen quickly, or Dragon's Den stuff. It's just long, slow work with corporates. So, and we've got a session later this afternoon with one of the businesses that's worked with a corporate, and I think probably in reality it takes 18 months. Probably 2 years of really slow, steady work, building up that corporate to the point where they want to work with tech companies, because we're trying to make a big corporate or an SME a more educated buyer, and we're trying to make a tech company a more educated seller. And that takes a long time. And I think that's probably I'm not entirely sure there is any magic, and maybe it's just hard work and a very long. I don't think we've got a secret formula, other than it's slow. A bit of a trudge. I don't know if that's reflected in Cardiff, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, we see ourselves a bit like those little tugboats moving the supertanker in a different direction, or little pilot fish that swim alongside the sharks, picking at their teeth. It's that idea that whenever we engage with primes and large corporates, they're almost desperate to do that, because obviously, as we all know on this call, that that idea of agility and companies able to pivot and to move in a very quick way is sort of unheard of in large organizations. So I think there's a real appetite to it, but absolutely endorse what you just said, John. It's a long-term strategy. You have to win their trust, and once you do that, then you can start to move the supertanker in your direction.
Fantastic. So I think the session was only half. Well, I know it was only half an hour. So I think we're kind of almost at time. But I don't know if there's anything else, Dave, you want to add in any particular comment in the last few seconds you want to pick up on, or anything we may have missed. We missed an awful lot from your fantastic slides, but anything particularly you want to highlight or?
No, other than apologies for. I mean, tech hiccups during a tech event are almost unforgivable. We kind of say cobbler's kids' shoes over here. Cobbler's kids' shoes are probably the worst repaired, and probably tech people's video conferences are probably the worst ever. So sincere apologies, and I hope for anybody who has listened into this and it's been of some use. John and I are always available to talk about what we've learned, and we've learned as much how not to do it as we have how to do it. And we certainly have had a number of surprises on the way. Probably the most important thing to finish with, and it's very appropriate right now, is our approach to COVID. I think because we've had so many things thrown at us that we've had to overcome, when COVID came along, we pretty much shrugged, had a week of depression, and then decided to attack it in the right way. We opened a virtual C4DI, which has been so successful, in many ways more successful than the bricks and mortar. But we've been able to make a point of continuing the virtual C4DI and, in fact, investing in it further, even when lockdown comes off. We will still be pushing the virtual side and investing in a whole virtual studio to run virtual events, because we find that we can get more people and more active participation in virtual events than we can in bricks and mortar. So that's a really nice way to finish up, probably.
Thank you, Dave. Mark, thank you. You're a very welcome face at the moment when I was slightly caught in the headlights. So that's very kind of you to join. Any kind of final thing from you, Mark? Anything you want to say?
To say, echo everything that David said. I think there's a real scope for us working together as an independent network. Louise has mentioned this around Reading in an earlier session. I think we've got real opportunities here to create that virtual network as well, and to support everyone in our own endeavours around the country.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Hope it's useful. I'm sure any of us wouldn't mind you picking up with us, but big special thanks to all the kind of colleagues at the kind of UK Tech Cluster Group for putting this on, and all the support that they give everybody. So yeah, big thanks to everybody, and yeah, see you at a later session. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.